Okay, great. Thank you so much. So, good afternoon, everyone. I am extremely excited to be sharing this time with you, and I hope that I can give you some tools to make your startups grow. I would also like to comment that what you're doing, really creating a company, is definitely not an easy task, yet it is extremely rewarding. Most importantly, you are helping your economies grow. I was recently in a convention, in an entrepreneurial convention in El Salvador, organized by the Wildlife Network, and the ambassador of El Salvador, Ms. Elizabeth Maines, was telling us in her speech that the MSMCs represent over 99% of the American economy. Wow, you cannot even imagine how huge that is. And that's a living proof of the importance of the work that you're doing. So I hope that everything that we discussed today is to help you out with your application to the TIC Americas. You will see that there is a website, ticamericas.net, where you'll find all of the requirements for your category. And I'm going to focus especially on the third point here, which would be innovation. So you are going to be asked some questions like the product service demonstrates improvement satisfying a customer need, or the business plan demonstrates improvement in the business process. So today I am not going to give you answers to these questions because that's something that you have to figure out, but I am definitely going to help you, providing you with some tools that can help you get there. So I'll start with a question. Why is it so important to innovate? Have you stopped to wonder why is it such an important topic in today's world and in the entrepreneurial field nowadays? So I'm going to exemplify it by telling you the story of the ice industry. And about in the year 1805, there were two wealthy brothers from Boston, Massachusetts. They were the Tudor brothers. And they were at a family picnic enjoying cold beverages and ice cream. And well, of course, it was colder out there. And so they were joking about how their chilled refreshments would be the envy of the people down in the South or the colonizers at the West Indies. And that was the beginning. They wouldn't really imagine that 30 years later, one of the brothers would be already shipping nearly 200 tons of ice halfway around the globe. He was then known as the Ice King. And well, we all know what happened during the early 1900s, and it was about later on, and that everything evolving the Industrial Revolution started shifting the ways that people were using the ice and how they were obtaining it. And so ice was already or started to being fabricated in areas where the weather was hot, and it was not only less expensive but a lot more reliable, and not even lives were at risk because of this enterprise. And that by 1940s, 5 million units of coolers had been sold to households. So you can imagine what happened to the industry, right? With freezers allowing people to make ice at home, there was little need to all of these ship massive quantities around the country. So I think that I don't need to mention that we do not hear the Tudor names anymore, neither in the refrigeration nor on the ice industry. Still, today, the ice industry puts about $2.5 billion a year in the economy of the United States of America, but it is nowhere as dominant as it used to be. Most of the ice that is nowadays sold in stores is prepackaged, and it is especially not harvested in anywhere else where it was in the 18,000s, but it's now made in making factories or even in your homes. And so this is a great example of how a company that was the leader of the category is no longer doing anything around it, and it's not longer in the picture. So innovation can help your business not only grow but continue growing, and could actually help you kind of guarantee that you will be around. So I would like to talk about four kinds of innovation that we have. Sorry, I think you can see a bar down here. I hope it's not. Okay, so four types of innovation. I am going to start by the sustaining innovation, and you will see this matrix that you can actually find in the Harvard Business Review. The article is called Four Types of Innovation and the Problems They Solve. And it will talk about how well the problem is defined and the domain as well. So right now I'm going to talk about sustaining innovation. It helps us improve our conditions in the current markets. It is to create a policy of innovation in our company. And for this, I would like to tell you the story about how design thinking has been helping designers and companies all around the globe. But stay tuned with me because I am going to do it shortly because I have a section on it. Now let's talk about breakthrough innovation. As you see, well, we have a well-defined problem, but we still don't have a well-defined domain. And I'm going to focus on open innovation, which is a kind of innovation that I personally like a lot. I think it's very useful for companies. And it's actually something that you could actually do in your startups already. So let me start by telling you a story of how CBC uses open innovation for its company and how it created a program 10 years ago, 8 years ago in Monterrey's University, in Tech of Monterrey. And each year they have around 100 students joining it. It's called Esferas de Innovación, or Innovation Spheres. And well, they basically provide the students with a problem that they are facing in the industry, and then they give them 1 whole year to work on the solution. And this is genius because, well, students don't actually have any prior experience in the industry, and that helps them actually develop the creativity without the objections that you would be putting if you actually would be working there. So it's actually great. I have created or helped create this program as well in Guatemala in my university, in Rafael University. We call it Open Innovation Challenge, and it's our second year, and I can tell you that the results are actually really satisfying, both for the company and for the students. So it's a gain-gain situation. One other story that I can tell you about open innovation is how I used it in my startup. We were about in our first year, end of our second year, sorry, and I had a client that asked me if we could broadcast short text messages. And of course, we didn't have developed a tool, and there wasn't somebody that was selling that at the time. But we researched a lot, and we were able to develop a system, and now we have sent over 17 million short text messages for different purposes and different clients. And I can tell you it's quite an effective tool for communication. And that's an open innovation. Having a client that needs something, that tells you its needs, and you listening to what they need so that you can actually develop something that you know that will be wanted. Then I would like to talk a little bit about disruptive innovation around right here. And I would like to do it with an example of the company 3M. So they have this thing called the Innovation Closet, in which they have all the products they have developed during time. They stock them right there and they leave them for quite a while, and they go back regularly to see if they could use these products in different ways, or just maybe the market needs something that's right there but it's not being put into that same use. And you see, my friends, this is how we have Post-its. So thank you, 3M, for doing that. I heard that it was supposed to become kind of a decoration item for, when you put the paper on the walls, but it wasn't holding very well, so now it got posted. It's amazing. And finally, our fourth type of innovation is basic research. It's not really what will help you get your company to the next level, but it is going to give you um, a bigger picture of what you need. So this helping with other things that we're going to talk about later will help you out. So here is another example. Did you know that Google invites about 30 top researchers to spend a sabbatical year at the company and funds 250 academic projects annually? And this is because everything that is involving research is actually really useful because we need information to conduct our innovation. So now you have four types of innovation. And now we're going to move forward to creativity. And is it creativity necessary for innovation? What do you think? Well, most certainly, but I do not have time to go really deep into creativity subject because it's really broad. But I do would like to suggest that you read a book. It's called Originals by Adam Grant. He's one of my favorite authors. He's an organizational psychologist. And he talks in his book about how nonconformists move the world. People who see the world completely different through a different lens, and how they actually are able to move things forward and to create an environment of innovation in their life and in their startups. So I think this book could give you a quite good glance of what creativity is about. Then the myths around creativity. There are so many, and please make a checklist, a personal checklist, to see if you have actually believed any of them at some point in your life. So the first one that I hear a lot is, I am just not a creative person. And let me tell you, that couldn't be more far from the truth. You have the ability to be creative, but it is kind of a muscle. If you do not exercise it, it will never appear. Then we have the Eureka moment. We actually believe that creativity happens in one same moment. Like, we have heard stories about how Albert Einstein was sleeping and then the solution came in a dream or something. And yes, of course, it happens in one moment, but it's not the reason to why it happens. It's because there has been an actual process to it. So creativity will come when you seek for it constantly and actively. It's not just one specific moment. It is very important to say that creativity is the sum of everything that you know that is to be applied at certain specific times where it could be needed. The next one is, I have to create something from scratch. And to be honest with you, creating something completely from scratch nowadays is a little bit difficult because you will encounter that many of the things actually have components of other things that have already been created. So most likely you will be able to take something that already exists and transform it to adapt your reality or to put it in other uses. So don't believe that you have to spend a lot of time thinking about something completely new. The next myth is one innovation session will be what my company needs, and that's not true. What I was telling you before about how it is a process also applies for startups and for companies. One innovation session will not be enough if you have somebody telling you that, I'm sorry, that person is lying. You need to create culture of innovation in your company. It has to always be one of those things that you actively seek. And most importantly, your employees or the team needs to be comfortable giving you different solutions and being creative and doing things in a different way. Most importantly, in here, I would like to open your heart and put this advice inside your heart, lock it very well, is that you need to question how you do things constantly. If we do not question, we do not have the opportunity to actually improve on what we're doing. Then the last one is the team and the process should be flawless and they are never going to have any trouble or problems. And that couldn't be more wrong. You see, when you have people with different opinions, that's what's going to actually enhance the opportunity to do things differently. So I do suggest that, for example, if you are working on something technological, why not bringing in a psychologist or somebody that works on the biology field? They could actually give you some information that probably you wouldn't have found anywhere. And there's actually a company that's doing that. I don't remember exactly where, but they are working on viruses, like internet viruses, and they brought people that work in the biology field, that were experts in this field. And I know it's not really the same thing, but it has helped. So the process for business innovation. I'm going to give you two tools today that you could be looking into more deeply because I do not have time today to emphasize on them, but at least you have some information that you can actually research later on. And the first one is design thinking. It was born in Stanford University in the Department of Design, in the Faculty of Design, sorry. And it is a process designed so that the designer can actually get into place and empathize with the customer that's going to use a product or a solution and then see how it works for that person. So it is mostly human centered. Um, so we're going first to empathize. We're going to empathize with the people who have the problem. This happens like you should conduct a lot of interviews and use the product and go out to the streets and see how it is affecting people's lives. Then we define um, what are the most important components of this problem. We define what are the challenges and what we would like to focus on. Because problems can be very broad, therefore, we shouldn't try to solve everything all at once. We could actually just move little by little and create different solutions and then integrate them. Um, then we move to the idea of how or what we should do to solve this problem or situation. Um, then we create a prototype, and prototypes can be as inexpensive as you can so that you can iterate quickly and you can fail fast. And this is the foundation of what we're going to see next. And then you move forward into testing the solution. Testing can actually be just imagine that you have a prototype made of cardboard and then you're going to role play on how you use this product. So this process is designed to happen definitely not one time, but multiple times so that you can validate in this part here what you have learned in here and then move forward back again. And so please investigate a little bit further, do some research. And then I would like to talk to you about Lean Startup. It's a book written by Eric Ries. And well, in this book, he actually tries to give you advice, or he gives you advice on how to create a company on a very low budget, failing fast, so that you can actually give your resources to what is really needed. Um, the first part is we're going to start by the ideas. So you can see here is where it's different to this one, but I would definitely suggest that first you empathize with your customer. If you do not empathize, probably you will not be parting from a necessity per se. And well, that will make your product or your solution become a trend. And that's not exactly what we need or we want, because we want it to be something that is sustainable. So um, first, you provide ideas to solving the problem or the challenge that you have. Then you're going to build a prototype that will actually help you several times developing the prototype to get to the product per se. Then you're going to use the product and validate the solution and measuring all of the data that you can gather um, with all of this going around and talking to people and having other people use the product. And then you're going to learn from what you hear and go back and suggest other ideas and so on. And this is a cycle. This can happen a lot of times, not necessarily just once. I would highly suggest that it's not just once. And it's going to help you save a lot of money, but definitely read the book. It has a lot more information that I can provide right now. And finally, I would like to focus on the word here that's called pivot. And when you pivot, and it's right in this stage because it's when you are shifting the course of your startup and of the product per se, because you know that you can actually give it to a um, different market or a different customer, or you can use it for other ways. So one great example of this is Twitter. It actually didn't start as a social network. Would you imagine that? It started as a way to actually talk within each other, like co-workers in an office. So it was a work chat. And then they start creating like these prototypes and using it, and then it starts shifting and shifting, and it becomes this microblogging social media. So it's a great way to understand that even great ideas don't need to be put into the specific use that we thought them before, but could actually help later on for something else that could actually be bigger. So dare yourself to question what you're doing now. And for that, we're going to do some exercises. Right now, of course, we do not have time to do them, but I would suggest that you do them back home with your team. And the first one is to observe and investigate. Do some research. This is also very useful for market validation, and it is for the empathizing um, stage of design thinking. And it will give you a whole lot of new ideas of what to do with your product per se. So just go out there, go to the streets, start talking to people, validate your idea, and go online and research what other companies are doing, or what or how other people are solving the same problem that you're trying to solve in just the other side of the world. And you could find a lot of things that could give you more ideas on how to adapt the solution to your specific reality. The next tool that I would like to talk about is Scamper, which I really like and is one of my favorites. Scamper is especially good for you to use if you consider yourself not a so creative person, so that you can start exercising your creativity muscle. And it's also a great way to have a more structured innovation or creative session with your teams. Just try not to be always on your laptop or computer when you're doing it, but to actually take it off and just grab some pen and paper, and that will help you out as well, your creativity. So um, First, we're going to talk about substituting certain characteristics of our solution. Solution meaning the product or the service that you are going to provide. And in substituting, we can substitute elements, things, processes, places, people, ideas, or emotions. So some questions that you could answer with your team to solve this part is some questions are: which elements could be substituted? Could a person be substituted in the mix? Could we change the rules? Could we give this project or product a different focus? Then we have the part of combinations. So we can combine themes, concepts, ideas, or emotions. And so good question is, which ideas could be combined, or could different solutions or purposes be combined? Which materials could be combined? Which services could be added to the mix? And I'm sorry if I'm going too fast, don't worry. We don't have much time, but everything will be recorded so you can go back and see it again. So later, adapt. You can adapt ideas, people, moments, or contexts. And so some questions that you can answer are: is there something else that is similar that we could adapt? Have we done something before that deserves our attention back? Is there something that other industries are doing? And that's what I was talking about before. And in which other context can we use this solution? Um, so then we talk about modifying or magnifying certain characteristics like the idea or the service or the product per se. So some questions are: what can be modified? Could we change the meaning or the purpose of our solution? Could we modify the shape, the size, or could we change the smell, the flavor, the texture, the sound? So here it comes more about the characteristics of the product per se or of the service. Then we are going to propose other uses. Like, for example, what other uses could we give to this whole product or to a part of the solution? So many a times we have a big process for providing a solution to a customer, and maybe we can just break it into chunks, and maybe one of these chunks could actually help somebody else, and it could be a new brand or a new product per se or service. Then, is the customer already using it for something else? And this is especially true nowadays that I have been watching some videos and some trends here, at least in Guatemala. And a lot of food companies are having their packages or their product displayed with other uses, like, for example, for cooking or for creating arts and crafts. So that's something else that you can do. Another question could be: could the process be given towards other things or industries? Okay, so then we move on to eliminate. And we could eliminate concepts, attributes, parts, or elements into a product or a service. And some questions that you may answer are: what can we reduce or eliminate? What would happen if it were smaller, for example? Or what can we take out of it so that it can be probably more comfortable? What can we divide into smaller pieces, or can the size be reduced? And I like an example in this area in particular, because these tools are actually helpful not just for the product per se, but even when you are facing a challenge. And I was reading an article, I think it was in the Economist magazine, about the dilemma of why has ice cream been reduced in quantity, like in some time back. And this happens because, well, ice cream is something that you buy because, well, you have a craving. It's not actually something that you need to live. I wish we would actually need ice cream, but we don't. So they they started testing out like increasing the prices, and they realized that it wasn't going to make it if you, of course, don't modify the product per se and do not give it a different quality perception. And so the solution was to reduce the amount of the ice cream so you could still have the same profit. So this also helps for this kind of problem. And finally, we move onward to reorganize. We could reorganize elements, roles, or processes. And some questions to answer are, what can we change of place? How can we obtain better results? Or what happens if we switch some parts or if we switch people during the process? Maybe they shouldn't meet a technician first, but instead they should meet a project manager, for example. So that can give you an idea of what um, switching people would mean. Then, can we change the sequence or define a different pattern, or if we could change the rhythm of things? And that's especially interesting if you like music. If you also like music, there's another tool that I like that it's called oblique strategies. There's even an app for that. You can research for it on the App Store, or you can even buy it on Amazon, like a deck of cards. The next tool that I would like to talk about is lateral thinking. And this is a word, pull is a tool that precedes a signal of provocation. A provocation is an idea which moves thinking forward to a new place where new ideas or solutions may be found. And how does this happen? So first, you're going to take all the main characteristics of your product or your service. It can be the process per se, it can be the product per se. And then you are going to just negate them. So you're going to say, if, for example, let's talk about a bottle of water. If this bottle of water is made out of glass, then we're going to negate. So this is not made of glass. And if it's not made of glass, what can it be made of? Maybe ceramic or maybe aluminium. So that's an idea of how it can open a lot of broad possibilities when you just don't think that something has to be done a specific certain way, but you can actually put other elements into it. So make a statement, deny it, then just be open to all of the new possibilities. And remember, grab a piece of paper because creativity works better when you are working with your hands. The next tool that I would like to talk about is brainstorming. And there's a specific technique on how brainstorming works. So it's not just as maybe your primary or elementary teacher was telling you, just sit down and provide a bunch of ideas. No, it actually is a little bit more complex than that. So for brainstorming, we're going to sit down, especially with our team. It is better if we do it in groups and not just by our own. So you're going to assign a specific time for this, maybe about 20 minutes or so. It depends on how complex the problem is and how much time do you have for the innovation session. And then after you have given all of the ideas, and be sure that everything that you say is allowed. Really, the main rule of thumb for brainstorming is there's nothing that you can say, but really nothing, not even taking something to the moon, that is not valuable. So remember that the first filter is your own brain, so say no filters right now. After you have finished this period of time, you move forward to actually picking up the ideas that sound better and that answer to this specific term. So, are they viable, feasible, and are they desirable by the customer, by the market, and by your company? So Can you actually make them? Are they technically possible to be done? Or does the client would want something like this? Is it desirable by the market? Okay, can we actually do it with the resources that we have? These are the things that you would have to take into consideration before picking up an idea. So pick up about 2 or 3 ideas, and then you can actually go back to a scamper to see which ideas could be combined, for example, or adapted, and just keep on going with some other tools that you may know, and these ones that I was just telling you about. And then you can move forward to a lean startup um, kind of thing that you could actually be doing. The next tool that I would like to tell you about is a tool that I really adore. Is in various languages. I think it's even in Mandarin, and it's the Creative Commons tool. So you can go to DIYtoolkit.org, and I have downloaded it in English for you, so you can see how it goes. So it's about 138 pages long, but don't worry, you don't have to read everything just at once. And so a lot of organizations have collaborated for this to happen. And this one is especially interesting if you are working towards a solution for a more social solution. But it works for anything as well, even commercial startups or organizations. So, for example, here you say, I want to look ahead on something or clarify my priorities, and you would check out what's here. So, for example, you could clarify your priorities by learning from first-hand experiences. So here, the tool is called Experience Tour. So you can go to page 7, and it will give you some information. So let's go there to see what happens. So here it tells you what it is, how it works, and then how it is applied. And sometimes it even gives you some examples of how it works. So I have found that this tool is actually really interesting. I use it a lot in the university. Even, for example, if you want to embrace change in your organization and you don't know how to do it because people are not really receiving change so well. So you could run through some of the tools that are given here. So it's great. Use it, download it, spread the word. It's a great tool. And now I would like to give you a challenge. Just pick a subject regarding your own startup, something that you are not quite satisfied with yet. It could be the product or the process of how you are providing the solution to the client, or even your manufacturing process. And just apply some of these tools that we have talked about before. And I hope that you can actually innovate on them. So that's basically everything that I have right now. And I really hope that you have learned a lot from this. So I don't know
Well,
if there
thank
are
you
any
very
questions.
much. Thank you very much, Alejandra. I feel that that was a very good and a very informative presentation about innovation. And that last segment of DIYs, that was a very interesting tool that a lot of young people can take advantage of and get their innovative idea, that one bright idea that will get their startups going. And I just wanted to mention that this webinar is being recorded, so you can go online and revisit it and feel any doubts that this presentation might have had, if anything. And yeah, I believe that will be all. If there's any questions, of course. And thank you, Alejandra, again for that presentation. That was pretty good presentation. Thank you again.
It was my pleasure, Javier.
So yeah, I believe